So this is where the blue goopy thing has been contained. Well, time to destroy it and ruin the pirate's plans.
Greetings, Hunter. Welcome to our most prestigious temple. Unfortunately, you do not possess enough of our sacred MacGuffins, artifacts, to enter the impact crater. Please return once you've collected all 12 Chozo Artifacts.
Artifacts? Wait, you want me to find some random items?
Not to worry, we reserved this one for you to use as a reference. We have hidden the rest of them throughout the planet, some in places that make absolutely no sense. Use the convenient clues we left behind and the power of bird magic to find them.
You want me to backtrack the entire planet? But I'm fully decked out on Chozo gear. Don't you guys want me to save the planet?
Sorry, I can't hear you on account that I'm ghost fading away now.
But I can still see you.
Collect all the MacGuffins and then come back. Don't forget to check out the gift shop on your way out.
I have to be honest, I don't think anything this year tops the surprise reveal and shadow drop of Metroid Prime Remastered. It delivered such a beautiful glow up to an all-time classic, while respecting and embracing the charm of the original art direction, which shows how much passion went into tailoring the experience to capture the same magic that has made the game a masterpiece. It's surreal to me because I always dreamed of having a portable version of this game be so easily accessible, even if it was just a simple port. So the fact that it is a gorgeous remastered filled with so much care makes this game all the better. But I think my favorite aspect about this remaster being released is that it's giving so many newcomers out there the opportunity to properly experience the game that made me a fan in the first place. It was heartwarming to know that many of them held the game in such a high regard today, in a similar fashion to how it was for us who went to experience it on its first release. In a way reaffirms that after all these years, Metroid Prime still holds its place as one of the best games produced. Yet, amongst the overwhelmingly positive reception I saw, there was still a flaw that soured the adventure for some. The big blemish on otherwise a perfect game that left some feeling a tad saddened. That being the Chozo artifact hunt at the end of the game. This should come as no surprise to veterans since it has been the main point of criticism against the game ever since the GameCube release. Pretty much everyone who has talked about this title online has mentioned at some point how frustrating it is to find the Chozo artifacts or how it can feel rather unnecessary. As someone who enjoys the mechanic, I can completely understand this sentiment. Having what is essentially a glorified scavenger hunt at the tail end of the adventure can feel like a chore or an easy cop-out to artificially extend the runtime, which can be even more annoying when you aren't getting any new abilities along the way that can help bring new life to the exploration or making backtracking go faster. But you know what? Even then, I never fully agreed with this mentality. Not to say that I'm denying that this isn't a shortcoming or that the other players who see it as a boring feature are in the wrong, but for the longest time I always considered that the artifact hunting is arguably one of the best features of Metroid Prime and perhaps one of the coolest challenges in the series. Without them, the moment you defeat the Omega Pirates, the game would point you towards the Artifact Temple to fight Ridley and Metroid Prime to simply end the game. This not only makes the finale feel more like a boss rush, which some might say isn't Metroid's main focus, but also limits the time you have to play with the Phazon suit you just went through the trouble to acquire by navigating the entire Phazon mines. Having one last story-related objective to complete after acquiring the suit gives you a chance to appreciate the upgrade and get to love it a lot more. Sure, you could always just decide to collect all the power-ups before fighting Ridley to get more mileage out of it, but it wouldn't quite be the same and the novelty can run out after a while. Most players would only really do this on repeated runs just for the sake of getting to see the suit a little bit more. Plus, perhaps even complain that there isn't much to do with it, wishing for one last objective to clear to give the final item some purpose. This is sadly something that has plagued some of the 2D games. Once you collect the final power-up, you don't have much of a chance to play around with it and appreciate what it can add to exploration unless you purposely go out of your way to get 100% completion. It is a shortcoming that we saw in Dread with the Wave Beam and Power Bombs or in Fusion with the Screw Attack, which might make these late-game power-ups feel pointless, given that there isn't anything to do with them in the main story, since your next objective is fighting the final boss. Although we can argue that Fusion and Zero Mission remedy this by having a special reward for collecting all the items under a specific time limit, we can also see this more as a self-imposed challenge that the casual player may not care for at all. Sure, the ideal solution would be to create one more area to explore or a whole extra portion of the Phazon mines you couldn't traverse without the suit. However, that may have not been an option given the hellish development cycle of Metroid Prime or the extra time and money it would cost to create. Instead, the team at Retro Studios may have come up with a solution using what they already had in the game that may have resulted in creating the ultimate challenge for any avid fan. Think about it. When describing the key mechanic that defines a game as a Metroid-like experience, most of us will be quick to say it is the act of using an assortment of weapons to explore your environment and discover any secrets within it, to find more abilities that will let you reach previously unreachable areas of a map, creating an incentive to backtrack, hoping to find a new item or boss to make progress in the story, while acquiring a new tool to spice up the exploration. To put it simply, use item A to explore the map and find item B, to then return to previously inaccessible areas in the hopes of finding item C to uncover even more places to explore, and thus slowly opening up how much of the world is accessible to you. It's as much about finding new power-ups as it's learning how to read the level design to determine the right places to use them, while keeping your eye open for any hints laid out in the environment. This core loop forms the game's main challenge, as you're tasked with using the abilities at your disposal to discover areas you previously couldn't access, and throughout the journey, this tends to mainly involve the latest power-ups you collected. Now, when it comes to finding the Chozo Artifacts, you're tasked to do the same type of exploration, yet this time it involves the entire map while in control of a fully equipped Samus, creating the ultimate challenge of the main mechanic that defines the franchise. Now that you have the entire arsenal at your disposal, the world truly becomes an open sandbox since you're no longer limited in the areas you can explore. So now the task becomes to find the most intricate secrets hidden all over Talon 4 by applying the knowledge you have been gaining throughout the rest of your adventure. If that does not sound like the ultimate challenge for the series, then I don't know what else it can be. As mentioned earlier, in most 2D games, the 100% cleanup is something more optional, given that you have to intentionally go out of your way from finishing the game to complete this task. Yet, thanks to this last challenge in Metroid Prime, you have a chance to collect the remaining of the items while working towards the current main story objective, making it feel more organically connected to the rest of the journey, which can even lead you to finding the optional power-ups along the way. A difference from the rest of the game, where after overcoming a challenge you're rewarded with a new tool, there is no direct benefit for collecting the artifacts that justifies the arduous task to find them. Yet, I'd argue that the reward for your troubles is in itself the fight against Meta Ridley and Metroid Prime. They serve as your cathartic victory lap for completing the ultimate Metroid trial, thus making these bosses feel all the more memorable because of what you had to complete in order to reach them. This also helps tie gameplay with the lore, as the Chozos on Talon 4 believed that in the future, one will come to the planet to rid it of the Phazon that's plaguing it. So they purposely left behind their weapons and armor to aid whoever this person may be. And only by overcoming this trial to enter the Impact Crater do you prove that Samus is truly the entrusted one to whom they confided their legacy. Another reason why some players dislike having to find the artifacts has to do with Metroid Prime's slower movement when compared to that of the 2D games. In those titles, Samus can feel like an unstoppable force by the late game, Your mastery over the map can lead you to go from one place to another without having to stop using the speed booster, which feels like a great reward for memorizing the layout of the rooms, as well as creating another aspect for the players to master. However, in the Prime series, your movement is understandably slower due to the first-person perspective. Yet, I feel a similar sense of satisfaction was achieved by instead making Samus more of an immovable object in these games. You can feel like an unbreakable force with how effortlessly you can dispatch any threat on your path with ease, or merely tank the hits thanks to the bonus defenses from the suit upgrades. Nothing can lay a dent in your armor, let alone stop you from reaching your objectives, that give a true sense of growth considering how frail you were at the start of the game. It gives you the same type of unstoppable vibe you see from the Emmys or the Terminator and how calmly they find their target, which in my eyes makes Samus feel equally as badass, given how little energy she needs to exert to control the situation or how little it bothers her to begin with. Also, it roughly takes the same amount of time to navigate some of the areas in the Prime games like the 2D ones, so it's kinda relatively the same, though one admittedly feels faster.
Just in time.
The other thing most people also mention as a shortcoming of the scavenger hunt is that some artifacts are a little bit too well hidden, making them hard to find. It's true that some of them are located in awkward locations, but it's worth considering that the game does help by pointing you in the right direction to find them. And as you collect more artifacts, the totems in the temple give you more clues to find others. And while still cryptic, one can quickly discover a pattern to decipher the hints. Take for example, the Artifact of Spirit, one of the most infamous items to collect according to many online. The totem's hint states that a tall cave stands at Phendrana's edge. Seek the unseen entrance at its top to find the Artifact of Spirit. By simply reading the scan, you can notice that the word edge is highlighted on a different color, which is your clue to find a room with the word edge in its name within Phendrana Drifts. Once there, you'd follow the hint to climb to the top and look for an unseen entrance. And given that there is a morphable passage in clear sight, one can deduce this is not where the totem was guiding you. So once at the top, you would use your X-ray visor to look for an invisible door to find the location of the hidden artifact. Each clue not only tells you the specific room you have to visit, highlighting its name with a specific color, but also what you have to do within it in order to acquire the artifact. With simple deduction skills, you can tell that the hints spell out what you have to do, and even for the more vague ones, they at least narrowed it down to the location you have to be in, so you can explore and use your arsenal to try and uncover the artifact. So it's not like you're going completely blind into it. If anything, another point against the artifacts is that they can hinder the incentive to do a second playthrough due to their change in pacing. However, having the locations of the artifacts already in mind can add a better experience to a second run because you can collect a great number of them early. A majority of the items can be acquired as you're making progress in the main adventure, since they're located in rooms that are on your way to the next objective, and only a few are more optimal to acquire once you have the Phazon suit in hand. One thing that can slightly help this portion of the game feel a bit more natural is the fact that you can easily arrive at the Artifact Temple early in your journey. Once players arrive on Talon 4, the first door they can see is the one that leads into the Impact Crater, so there's a decent chance that many wandered into this area first. And once they recover their missile launcher, they could return to see if there's anything else to the area, which would grant them their first Chozo artifact. I guess a negative about this design philosophy is that once you enter the Chozo ruins, there is little incentive to leave, given that you quickly recover your lost abilities within it. And once you acquire the Varia suit, the level design cleverly leads you to Magmor Caverns so you can go and explore the rest of the planet, thus straying away from the Artifact Temple that the game doesn't quite show to you until the very end. However, this is a detail that I always enjoyed. Since the game never tells you about this area with the hint system earlier, it does give the location an air of magic and mystery if you happen to wander in it. The same type of wonder you get from discovering a secret early that makes the world feel alive and mystical. Then again, I was one of those players who stumbled here early in my adventure, so perhaps this is why I hold such a soft spot for the Artifact Temple. But I can attest to that sense of amazement I got when I finally saw what the area was hiding all along, which itself felt like the ultimate reward for completing such an arduous task. The Chozo Artifacts may not be the most elegant of trials in the series, and their late introduction can be seen as an intrusive way to extend the playtime. Yet I think it ended up creating a challenge so unique that it could only feel natural in the context of a Metroid game. A difference from, say, Wind Waker's Triforce hunting, the way you collect the artifacts feels more organic to the rest of the game since you can start gathering them earlier than intended without having to go through several hoops. You don't need to get a map in one place to get it deciphered in another with money just for a chance to get some of the items. Instead, it's as simple as getting the power-up needed to reach them and then collect it the next time you're near one, which, as mentioned, happens to be the case with many of them during the main adventure. While I am not expecting or trying to change people's mind about this mechanic, I hope that this video has been able to offer a different perspective towards this aspect of Metroid Prime, so it can garner a little bit more appreciation for what it set out to do and what it's adding to the game in general. Without it, the endgame would just be a glorified boss gauntlet, given that you would head for Meta Ridley after finishing the Omega Pirate, and I don't think that is what defines a Metroid game at its core. Part of why the boss fights in these games are memorable is because of the feats and exploration you must complete to find them, which in itself aligns nicely with the vibe the marketing was going for at the time. To destroy evil, it first must be found. As you can imagine, things are a bit different when it comes to the Sky Temple keys from Echoes or the energy cells from Corruption. Although they serve a similar function in their games, they go about the process in different ways for better and worse. So I think it's best to discuss them in their own videos later on, considering that there's a lot I can say about them and what they bring to the table. When it comes to future games, I wouldn't be opposed to the developers trying to bring back this mechanic, given the fact that I enjoy this type of challenge. Although, if they do, I would like to see some things improved, of course. For one, I would incorporate the idea of having to do a scavenger hunt earlier through the main adventure as some detail in the environment to avoid interrupting the normal flow of the game. This way, we can foreshadow the importance of the items in the world, as well as ease players into the mindset that this will be a quest later on, as to avoid from the mechanic abruptly appearing towards the end. The other idea would be to give these items a bigger purpose within your arsenal. Perhaps they can give you a passive boost to your defenses or firepower with each pair you collect. This is to give a bit of immediate gratification to finding the story MacGuffins, so it feels as rewarding as discovering an energy tank. Through these suggestions, the player can understand the weight that these items may have on the story, as well as feel motivated to collect more throughout their journey. Because in their current state, the main issue surrounding these MacGuffins is that they can feel like a hollow reward for the most part. I don't think that the problem with these scavenger hunts is that they exist as a quest objective to begin with. It's more that they don't feel connected to the rest of the gameplay, and unless the players go out of their way to read the scan logs, they won't understand why the story is asking them to do it in the first place. By finding ways to implement this hunt with the rest of the adventure, you can make it feel like an organic part of the game rather than a medial task. And as many can attest, the sequels in the trilogy handle this better. So I'm sure future developers will learn from it while finding ways to improve. Even though artifact hunting is a tedious chore that can feel disjointed from the rest of the adventure, its true purpose can be appreciated when we take a step back and see how this was implemented to offer a final test of the skills the player has been developing throughout their journey, thus creating the ultimate trial of the core mechanic that defines the series. Before ending things off, I would also like to give a special thanks to all my Patreon members for their continued support on the channel. If you enjoyed this video, let me know if there are any topics you'd like to see me discuss. I'm trying to make simpler videos here and there so I don't keep you guys waiting too long between the main ones you'd come to expect. I'm also aware the upload schedule has been somewhat slow, but this is because I have spent some time developing an original project the past couple of months that I hope I can reveal to you guys sometime soon. So keep your eyes open for whenever that happens. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.